So my background is actually in finance. I'm ethnically Indian. I was born in Malaysia, but my grandfather came from India to Malaysia, and then my dad was born here. So I'm second generation here in Malaysia. And so we still have a lot of family in India, and my parents would take us to India when we were younger. And when we used to go there, I kind of saw the extreme disparity of, I mean, at least the part of India where my family was from, the village that my parents were from. There were people living in mud homes. They weren't flushing toilets. There wasn't like piped water. Water was still from wells. And, so it was kind of like a bit of a shock for me, coming from Malaysia, where we had all the basic amenities, and then going to the village and seeing that. It's only when I experienced it, then I realized, oh, okay, the reality of other people around the world is not the same as my reality, which I know. That kind of stayed with me. And then as I grew up, I saw poverty in my own family. My relatives were struggling in India. And then when I went to study in the US, I pretty much thought that, oh, maybe I should try to make a lot of money, because clearly money is what people lack, and that's why they're poor. So I decided to go work in investment banking, and it was interesting because then I realized,
Yeah.
oh, hey, I'm actually making rich people richer. And, I mean, it's like the people that around the world that are poor are not really getting the help they need. So I quit my job and I went to do my master's in the UK. And after that, I ended up working with the UN in Ghana in West Africa. After working with the UNDP, I worked with an NGO there. So it's kind of like two different worlds, because when I was in New York, it was, we were making all these big companies, helping them make more money. But there wasn't very much interest in helping, people in need. While in Ghana, we're helping a lot of people in need, but there never seemed to be enough money. So it's kind of like these two worlds that are not joining up. And so that's when I started, thinking about social enterprise. And also when I was doing my master's in the UK, like my thesis was on microfinance, and it kind of made me start thinking about how can we use business and enterprise to do good in a way that is sustainable. So we're not always struggling for money. And then if we're making money, the money that we are making, that we reinvest it to do good. So I came back to Malaysia. I was working in Malaysia Sovereign Wealth Fund for about 2 years, because I wanted to think about how I could contribute to where I came from. And one day I was going home from work, and I sort of like fell asleep when I was driving because I was so exhausted from working like really long hours. Um, so that was kind of what made me like step back and think, like, what am I really doing with my life? And is this the kind of life that I want? Like, what kind of legacy am I leaving behind if, say, I had died that night? Would I have been proud of the life that I lived? So I kind of came to a stop and I quit my job and I told my bosses, like, I'm taking a sabbatical. At that point, I went to Hawaii. I was learning natural farming. We were also building schools and teaching English in Cambodia. Actually, at YWAM, it's called Youth with a Mission. And so when we were in Cambodia is when I met with a lot of struggling weavers in the villages, because they were getting paid like $1 for their work. And I mean, they were given the raw materials by the retailers or whoever, the middlemen, but for their labor, they were getting paid like $1. And then those scarves that they were then making were being sold for like 2 or 3 times the price, right?
Hmm. And that money, I'm sure, wasn't going back to them, right?
I mean, the retail world, I mean, that makes sense. Like from the price that you purchase, you would resell it at 2 or 3 times to make sure that you have enough of a margin to support the retail operations. But $1 for like, I don't know, like 5 days, 6 days of work to make one scarf is pretty low. But in Cambodia, that was considered a reasonable sum. So I just thought, but these families are struggling. So I actually just started buying products from them and reselling it in Malaysia to my family and friends. And essentially, that's how Earth Air started. It
Okay.
was just like a hobby. It was like a side thing. I didn't really envision that it would become a business, um, but it ended up becoming a business because I met with a Christian impact investor, and he said, "Look, if you really want to make a difference in the lives of these women, this cannot be a hobby. You have to." Make this into a real business so that it's something sustainable that you do. So I ended up registering Earth Air in 2013. Many times I felt like giving up. I mean, after 3 years of running it, in the first 3 years when I wasn't earning a salary, I was really struggling and I was so overwhelmed and I was burnt out. I was about to like shut Earth Air down. But then I got the Eisenhower Fellowship and I spent like 7 weeks in the US meeting different people. And that was when I started, getting new ideas for what we're doing. And I started doing more like B2B work. And then we got a physical space, which I think all made a difference because before that, I was working from my parents' house. It was very hard to grow when you don't have a space for the products. Yeah. So when we finally managed to be able to afford to rent a space, I think that made a difference. So for the first 10 years of it there, like we started working with artisans outside of Malaysia, like artisans in Thailand, Cambodia. And then I spent the first 2 to 3 years actually learning myself because I mean, I came from finance. I don't know anything about working with artisans or designing products or
Yeah.
building a brand or like, I didn't like retail. I didn't know anything, right? So I had to spend time like learning all of that myself. In the last 10 years, Earth Air is now Fair Trade certified. We are B Corp certified. And when we got to 10 years, which was 2023, I started thinking about like, again, it's been 10 years I've been doing this, is this really the best use of my time and my talent? And so I started thinking about what we're doing at Earth Air. And, we've built our brand, right? And we have this goodwill and everything. But at that point, I started thinking about I can't go on if I'm only growing Earth Air. Like, I don't feel a drive and a passion to just keep going to build like one brand for a small group of people. I mean, like the artisans that we're working with only. And during COVID, I noticed, I mean, a lot of organizations like really struggling and some of them shut down. We couldn't get sales. And, the issue of market access is a problem with nearly every artisan business in the world. I mean, what we're doing at Earth Air is not like, oh, this is so special, because there's so many brands around the world that are doing exactly what we're doing, like working with communities on the ground and helping them, right? But a lot of the times people don't know they exist or how do you find out about them, right? So that's when in 2023 and officially 2024, we actually launched Earth Air Collective. So now Earth Air, our website and our shop, we actually have products from many other brands and social enterprises and NGOs. In our physical shop, we have more than 30 different social enterprise and nonprofit products. Yeah. Um, because a lot of these social impact organizations don't have their own websites that people can shop from, or they don't have traffic, and stuff. We've sort of brought all of them under one roof, so people can shop and buy from all of these brands and all these organizations in one place. Last year, we also launched our 1% social pledge, where we're trying to encourage companies and government agencies to practice social procurement. So we're trying to say, like, please at least think about putting up to 1% of your procurement expenses to purchase from social impact organization. And it's a commitment that they are making that they will keep to and support social impact organizations. Yeah. So we're focusing a lot more on building the ecosystem and growing the ecosystem for social procurement in Malaysia. So I'm reaching out to like the government to try and see if they would create policy that would encourage government agencies and companies in Malaysia to buy more socially.